baby, of our preview show. We got the Seattle Seahawks hosting the New Orleans Saints. Nick, I think we got to be pretty excited about this Week 7 matchup. And so far, I think the NFL has been doing a great job, and each game has gotten a little
Yep.
more better, or it seems like it's going to be more exciting than the last Monday evening football game, which I'm going to be honest, I'm very excited for. And I think on the NFL in our newsletter that we put out about how they create the schedule, I want to say I think they're doing some good things for Monday evening football, really making that a prime slot
Oh yeah.
for action on the football field, which we're excited about.
Oh yeah. It's awesome. Like I think you're right. You can kind of see it's weird because I never noticed this until we started doing this show, but it is interesting to see
Yeah.
like you can sort of see how they maneuver those primetime games. They're thinking of the time of year, right? And like where you're going to be at. Week 7,
Yep.
we're probably we're not yet in November at that point, but we're getting close. Like,
Yep.
and I think that's a big thing. I think that's part of what I like about doing this show is you got to kind of think about the time of year that you're also focusing on. Like what's going to be going on in the
Yeah.
NFL. Week 7, that's a lot. Now we're in the meat of the season. Now it's like, okay, this is things are starting to take a little bit of shape by week 7. This is a game that
Yeah.
could be,
Yes.
have some playoff implications possibly. Like it's pretty cool to think ahead to that.
It really could down the line. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit it perfectly, Nick, where the Week 7, yeah, we're starting to get the shape of how the season's going so
Hmm.
far. What teams really need to put their foot on the gas and make up some ground, and what teams have got some things figured out. And I think, with the Saints and the Seahawks by Week 7, I think we're going to see two very good football teams and two football teams that have a lot of talent top to
Oh
bottom.
yeah, dude, for sure.
I mean, you look at the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, they got their guy Russell Wilson back. He never requested a trade, never once.
Not
Go
once.
Hawks! It's
Not
been go. It's
once.
been always go Hawks.
Not once. How'd that
Never.
leak out there? Who
You know
knows?
who knows? But he's there. He's gonna be the man in charge. Essentially, he's gonna be running the offense. Might as well just make him the quarterback and offensive coordinator. Give him a clipboard on the sideline because he's gonna be calling his own plays essentially, having a little more control of that offense, which is something that I think the Seattle Seahawks are going to benefit
Oh
from.
yeah.
And and if by Week 7 there is an injury at the quarterback position, you got Geno Smith who can step right in there and
Make it happen.
who's played some NFL games and knows his way around the field and things like that. So that's pretty solid. And you have Chris Carson, who is probably the only solid running back that the Seattle Seahawks have, to see if they do decide to pick someone up, because I don't believe anyone else at the running back position for them, is even guaranteed a spot on the roster. It's so shaky after Chris Carson.
No doubt. No doubt. Um,
Yeah.
it's interesting, right? If there is a weak point on the offense, it very well may be that.
Yeah. Yeah, because you look at the wide receiving and the tight end, area. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, those guys obviously are going to do their thing week in and week out. And then at the tight end spot, you got Gerald Everett, who used to play for the Los Angeles Rams.
Oh yeah.
Having him being able to add into the mix there, just another weapon for Russell Wilson to be able to attack, use down the field. Things like that. And then also you have an offensive line for the Seattle Seahawks that has gotten better. They traded for the the Las Vegas Raiders, I believe is a guard, Gabe Jackson. They
Um,
traded for him this offseason, as the Raiders decided to explode their offensive line and rebuild. He was one of those guys that got shipped out. So, and then they're returning 4 starters in the other positions. So that offensive side of the ball is looking very phenomenal, Seahawks. And I think that all starts with Russell Wilson coming back into the fold. And I'm excited to see what type of firepower that offense puts up this season. Because I have a feeling, obviously, with DK Metcalf and Russell Wilson alone, those guys, they really can light up the field.
Oh yeah.
and go for a lot of yards, 100 plus, yard receiving games from
Okay.
DK Metcalf,
Okay.
2 or 3 touchdowns.
Well,
And Russell Wilson, he's going to put up his 300, 400 yards each game. So this is a very interesting to see
yep.
how this will play out because very talented team. But let's take a look over at the Saints offensive side of the
Oh,
ball, Nick.
so if you're looking at
I mean,
the storyline for the Saints offense, I think realistically is
yeah,
obviously you lose Drew Brees. I mean, that's the storyline. That's
yep,
unfortunately, I think if you're a Saints fan, this is one of those things where you probably are sitting at home. This is just my guess. If I'm making assumptions I shouldn't, Saints fans, tell me. But I do think this is one of those things where if you're a Saints fan, you're like, man, I really hate that they're going to spend a lot of this year in the media talking about the fact that we don't have Drew Brees anymore because the Drew
mm,
Brees era is done. They probably want to be able to move on from that, like a healthy sort of
yes,
attitude, and just move forward. Like there were great times there. You won that Super Bowl, but I do think the fans are like, look, we feel good about where we're at. We still have a lot of the weapons that we had with Drew Brees. And
yeah,
to be honest, Drew Brees last year was not a perfect quarterback by any stretch of the imagination. You have Jameis Winston.
no,
You're probably excited about Taysom
yep,
Hill. And so I do think for the Saints fans, they probably want to just be able to focus on the football that's going to be on the field, not the football that used to be on the field. And so I
yeah,
hope that the Saints have, just for the Saints fans, to be honest, I actually hope the Saints have a little bit of success early, just so the media can maybe get away from that Drew Brees thing. And it's going to be hard. I mean, the Saints are
yeah,
realistically a playoff team, and I think, unfortunately, it's just going to follow them all season, that narrative. But the more success they can have, the better we can kind of turn the page to what I think is a phenomenally interesting situation with Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, and this whole like weird thing that's going on in New Orleans. I like Jameis Winston. I think he's a character. I like what he's bringing to the table. I think I enjoy the fact that he is an entertaining figure in the NFL. I enjoy that a lot.
yeah,
And so,
yeah. And like it just seems like that's like just his nature, trying to be an
yes,
entertaining guy. It just it just so happens to be very much like a Marshawn Lynch type of character.
mhm, absolutely. And so, like he's a guy that I think you're right. It is like Marshawn Lynch because he brings eyes to that team that otherwise wouldn't be there. And I just think, I
Yes.
mean, I mean, look, the last time we saw him really playing a lot and healthy, he had what 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions, and like led the league in
Yeah.
both or something, like whatever. Like he is that kind of guy, and so it's pretty cool to be able to see him with some weapons like Alvin Kamara, and like to
Yeah.
to be able to
Michael
Michael
Thomas.
Thomas, absolutely, to be able to see him with those guys in the dome. I'm excited. I think Taysom Hill is an
Yeah.
interesting element, though. In fairness, I'm not such a believer in the hype, truthfully. Um,
Oh, yeah.
with
Okay.
a Taysom Hill,
I would agree with you.
I think it's an interesting storyline, but I would, if I'm rooting for the Saints, I think I'd rather just see, let's give Jameis the ball, let's let him play quarterback. Let's keep Taysom Hill in these sort of certain packages. Obviously, he is a weapon in certain areas, but let's give Jameis the
Yeah.
ball and let him see him sling it. I'm excited to see by week 7
Yeah.
who is starting for the Saints. I'm very excited to see how everything shakes out there. Um,
Yep.
and yeah, I'm just excited to see how they look by week 7. But Alvin Kamara, man, that dude is a beast still at this point. I
Yeah.
think maybe he becomes even more of a factor in the offense. I think a guy
Yes.
like that helps a quarterback kind of in a new system. Playing,
Yep.
a lot of reps
And
like either of these guys would be having. I think Alvin Kamara is a good catch-all for a lot of things. He can kind of do a little bit of everything, keep you
yes.
safe out there. You can always check down to him, and you're probably getting positive yardage. So, a fun
Yeah.
offense at the end of the day.
Yeah. And especially because he's so diverse, in where he can line up and things like that. That only helps, Jameis Winston have that confident guy, motion him out into the slot so he can beat a
Yep.
linebacker, you know, that type of stuff. Because not too many linebackers are going to be able to keep up with a guy like Alvin Kamara. Um, but a good thing, week 7, if the Seattle Seahawks can't figure some things out on the defensive side of the ball, like who they're really going to solidify at the cornerback position, but they're looking at DJ Reed and Akello Witherspoon.
Yeah,
Akello
okay.
Witherspoon. Those are the two guys who looks like they're going to be starting this season. Now, I'll be interested to see if those guys will make it to week 7 as the starters,
Interesting.
because there's many things that could come up.
Of course.
Interesting to see if those guys are the starters, how much strides they have made,
Yep.
and as if that's something Jameis Winston would be able to extort, up until that point. Just something that kind of caught
No
my eye.
doubt.
I'll be excited to see the Saints defense can do too, because you got guys like Malcolm Jenkins, decent names on that New Orleans Saints side of the ball. So it'll be interesting,
Oh yeah.
against Russell.
Oh yeah.
And really coming in and really putting it to the Seattle Seahawks, or do we think Russell Wilson, who never requested a trade a day in his life from the Seattle Seahawks
He would
and
never.
company, gonna take it to the Saints?
The it's similar to the game that we talked about last week, right? Where I think it'll
Mm-hmm.
be close. And I think you're going to see a shootout. I think you're going to see a close
Yep.
game. I think it's so interesting the more I like that we do this. Like seriously what I was talking about, like the NFL, like they are so dialed in on like, look, everybody's just excited to get football back those first few weeks. Just put some
Yes.
teams out there, maybe some big markets. Let's do our thing. But when we get to this period of like late October to Thanksgiving, like we are going to
Yeah.
put some matchups in there. Um,
Yeah.
I see it being a high scoring game.
Mm.
I think I can see a 38-35
Okay.
situation. Um, but I do think the Saints come away with it. I think that the Saints are a team that's going to be a little bit better than people think. I think that there's a
Mm-hmm.
chip on the shoulder of that team. That team went through a weird stretch with Drew Brees. Like Drew Brees had some interesting comments in
Mm.
the offseason before last year, and the team was not happy at the time. Then they sort of came together. They did have a good year, don't get me wrong, but Drew Brees was
Yep.
hurt for a lot of the year. He had the noodle arm going on at times. Like there was a lot going on. Or he was hurt a little bit. I'm thinking of 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, he hasn't been as much of a factor as people think the last few years.
Yeah.
And I do think they're all I mean, you could make an argument that a good Jameis Winston this year is better than Drew Brees was last year. And so they very well could be
Yeah.
have an upgrade at quarterback potentially. And I know people probably don't want to hear that, but that's realistic. Like in terms of
Yeah.
like
That is.
what their offense could do, I think they're going to have a solid season. But yeah, I can see them squeaking one out against the Seahawks for sure.
You know what, Nick? This is gonna come as a surprise because of the hat that I'm wearing. But
Get it out of here.
I also Jameis Winston for the W, baby. But I think it's going to be, yeah, I think it's going to be a little tougher of a game than that high scoring game. And
Okay.
I think it's probably going to be more like 24-17. I think
Oh,
we're
I
going to
like
get
it.
into a battle. I think we're going to see some good offense, but I think we're going to see some great defense, especially, with some of those defensive players that I keyed in on a little earlier. So I think Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston both go for one interception.
Hmm.
Um, that's my lock there, and but I do also have the Saints pulling it out too, because I do think they are a little better equipped to handle a team like the Seattle Seahawks, and you do have like Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas, who are two better players at their position.
Oh yeah.
You're going against DK Metcalf, who, yeah, you could say he matches up great with Michael Thomas. But then when you look at that running back position, I think they have an advantage,
Yeah.
a huge advantage there if they can can get everything pulling in the right direction by week 7, that is.
I I could see this. Let me tell you a storyline I could see about this
Okay.
game, and let me get your take on it.
Yeah, for sure.
I could see this game being a game that has playoff implications in the sense that I think Tampa and the Rams look like the division leaders in those two divisions. However, there is a
Yep.
lot of potential for the Seahawks to give the Rams a little bit of trouble. I think that division's a little more open because you have the Cardinals and stuff, but they're
Yes.
potentially.
Yep.
And I think that the Saints are going to be able to put some pressure on the Buccaneers. You can't take a week off in that division. This isn't
No.
some of these other divisions that exist where, you might get up 3 games on the next closest team
Yes.
in your division, right? And I don't think those divisions are that. I think this could very well have playoff implications because of that.
I
That five,
yeah.
six, seven
I
seed might be at play in this type of game. Middle of the year, obviously, but I think it could matter.
Yep. And for a team like the Seattle Seahawks, who are very much in win now mode, and depending on how well that team can come back together after a little rocky of an offseason,
Mm,
that team could very well be at the top of the division, potentially trying to play for a home playoff game
I am.
or something like that. So that's where I really see this having like playoff implications is going to be those like top seedings to be fighting for at least one or potentially two home games, before you have to go on the road.
Right.
That's where I see the major playoff implications coming
Absolutely.
from this, because it's one of those matchups where you see it and it's like this is a game that you want to win, but
Yep.
you're okay if you lose because it's a good team you're gonna be playing. But
Right.
like if you can win, it really adds to that resume at the end of the season. Where if you get locked up with an equivalent record, you just be able to nudge them out just by the
Right.
head to head matchup there. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I definitely do think it has bigger playoff implications than probably people will give credit for. But I'm sure it'll be talked about week 7
Oh,
is how much the playoff
dude, you
implications there is.
You know what's a sneaky one too that I didn't even think of? Like this would have been applicable like maybe last week too. Think
Hmm.
about the fantasy implications that game is going to have because you got to think like how many
Yeah.
fantasy owners come into that game with Kamara, Michael Thomas, a DK Metcalf, Russell Wilson, maybe a
Oh, for
Jameis
sure.
Winston, like
Yep.
potentially one of those defenses, like depending on the depth of your league. Like that's one of these
Yep.
games that I could see a lot of fantasy implications. It's that last game of the week. That's another one that's very interesting. Is like you get these primetime games and stuff. Man, I think
Yeah.
I can absolutely see this might top to bottom so far end up being the biggest game heading into it
Yes,
for
I would
Monday Night
agree.
Football. This could be
Yeah.
this could be a serious type of game. I don't know their schedules, but you could obviously envision a world where this was a 5-1 against a 4-2 type of game. Two 4-2
Yeah.
teams in the NFC, like fighting for that first wild card spot or middle of the season. Like it's going to be a good one. I am looking forward to this one a lot.
Yeah. I would agree. Any chance Jameis Winston comes out and you think Jameis Winston's playing week 7 in this game?
It's tough. That's one of the things. Like I think that's a storyline to watch because I don't know. Like because you don't know how they're going to start the
Yeah,
year,
because
and
it's
you don't like. My thing is like they already feel a little shaky on that, which means like
yeah.
it,
Yes.
which means like all right, like if things are not going well, they're going to start jumping around. That
Yeah.
is the weakness that unfortunately we like. I think you have to note if you're a Saints fan is like if you have two quarterbacks, you sort of have no quarterbacks. Like that is real
Yeah.
in the NFL. And unfortunately, there is that little bit of, you could definitely see a storyline where we wake up that Tuesday morning and we're like, I mean, look, like they can't make up their mind. Or even going into that game, it'd be
Yeah.
Monday morning. Like they just haven't really found it yet, and Russell Wilson will just see it and just, you know, if he smells blood in
Yeah,
the water, like
yeah,
it'll just go.
yeah. If they haven't figured it out by week 7, either it's oddly working for them or
Hmm.
they need to get some things figured out rather quickly.
For sure.
But I think, like we said, I think we're both very optimistic on Dan in his career in New Orleans. We think he's going to do probably better than most people expect.
Oh yeah,
And to be honest, I think having him on the Saints is probably good just for the publicity for the Saints. And I do think he kind of fits that New Orleans culture
oh yeah,
um,
absolutely,
pretty well down there, actually.
absolutely. Yeah, he's found a
So,
good fit, I think, which is going to be fun to watch this year. I wonder. Here's a question for you: if you're a fantasy owner this year, say you're in a 10 team league. So let's
okay,
say that's
solid.
a 10 team league. Are you taking? Are you starting Jameis Winston in a 10 team league?
Oof. Hmm.
If they named him the starter, if they were like he's the starter,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I am.
I know it's a weird one, right? It seems
It's
risky
I
when,
mean, well, I mean, I have done it before and it has paid off. But the problem when you get in with him is like you need him to score 32, and he's more than capable of scoring 32. But he's also going to have -6 points for the interceptions
yes,
that he throws.
it's
Was
tough,
his old knock on him,
right?
So it'll be interesting to see because I think it'll be telling whether Jameis Winston has made some progress as far as like the interceptions go,
Yep.
because I think that'll be pretty telling early on. I think weeks 1 through 4, we're gonna know if Jameis Winston is really locked in, throwing darts, or still a little loose with the
Yeah,
ball,
no doubt.
kind of like an old Brett Favre was.
Oh,
And
gunslinger.
you know, and even then, it's tough because like that dude can put up 6 touchdowns in a game with
Right.
6 interceptions. So I
Right.
mean, if you're looking at it from strictly a fantasy viewpoint, it's like, yeah, I would start him because I know he
Yep.
can put up mad points, but there's a risk there.
Does
And
that consistency kind of disappears when it's that weird thing, right? Like I think he's in that weird sweet spot where like if you're in that 10 team league and you're like, I'll take the last quarterback. I'll wait
yeah,
until everybody else has one and then I'll go. That's my strategy. I think when you get to that 10, you're like, because there is Kamara. He's got the weapons like to throw to. He's in the dome. People like it, but I agree. Like, what do you do with that? I don't know. I
yeah,
don't know that he's. Yeah, I don't know that he's necessarily the move. But
but he is in week 7. That's what we're
absolutely,
saying to the people at home.
absolutely.
Week 7, he's going to have 380 yards, 4 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. So take that
He's
to the bank,
right to the bank. Absolutely.
right to the bank, cash it. And then Russell Wilson probably like 470, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception.
Yeah, 470.
And someone
Yes.
someone's going to have a fumble in that game, but I can't let you know who that is. But
Oh,
someone will fumble in that game.
I
Mark
actually
my
I like
words.
that bet a lot because you got some wild cards in that game that absolutely will fumble that thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I like that.
Absolutely.
Nice, man.
But what I will what Monday Night Football game are you most excited about this year, Nick?
It's tough. I think let me pull this up real quick because right off the bat, like obviously I'm excited whenever the Packers play. I mean, obviously,
That's my mind went there too.
obviously, week 2 against the Lions, which feels like a winnable game. If I'm being totally honest, that's always exciting to me. But in fairness, let me look at it with an unbiased approach. So let's say I can't pick the Packers game, right? Right now, so far, Bills and Titans, right? The game we went over last week. Up to the games we've covered up to this point, I like that one a lot. Um, If I'm being totally honest looking at it, I also like Patriots Bills week 13 because that could be a very
Yeah.
important game. I like Rams Cardinals the week after that. That's week 14. That could be a huge game. Massive. See, not to mention Brown Steelers to end it, right? To end the year. Then
Yeah, I
again,
saw that
though,
too.
here's my here's where I'm at. Packers Lions for sure. Bills Titans week 6. I would
Yep.
say is the one I'm the most excited about on the whole slate.
Yeah.
However, I am high on the New York Giants this year. And
Okay.
The New York Giants play 2 Monday night football games. They play at the Chiefs and at the Buccaneers. So they play the two teams that
Yeah.
were in the Super Bowl last year. And I am
Ah.
very excited for both of those games. I think that the Giants are a damn good team. I just think what happens is last year Daniel Jones had to learn an entire offense
Yeah.
without his star running back.
Yep.
I think that that team is very exciting. I'm not saying they're gonna just like absolutely tear the NFL up this year, but I think if you're looking for like one of those like worst to first type scenarios where it's like a team that just wasn't very good, hasn't been very good, that just pops out of nowhere, and you're like, oh shit, like
Yeah.
who's that? That's a lot of
Yeah.
teams we've seen lately, right? I think there's a lot of
Oh,
teams
for
like that.
sure. Yep.
I think the Giants could be that team. So the fact that they play the two teams that were in the Super Bowl last year, the fact that Daniel Jones gets a primetime game against Mahomes and Brady, that says a lot
Yeah.
about like his development and like that is a huge,
Yeah.
and I've said this before, but think about it, like you as a Packers fan, you remember a lot of those early Aaron Rodgers like primetime games because he played
Yep.
well. Like and people that
Yes.
sticks with people. Like that was always the knock on what Andy Dalton, right? Couldn't play well in prime
Yep.
time. Like it matters, and they give certain guys those opportunities, and the guys that just take those opportunities, like and run with them, it matters. Like if Daniel
Yep.
Jones comes out, Daniel Jones would have a chance to shock the world. If Daniel Jones and the
Yep.
Giants came out and they even played a close game with the Buccaneers or the Chiefs,
Ooh.
let alone win. Which, to be honest,
Yeah.
like with Saquon Barkley, like you can definitely see like situations where like I think they are going to be good, and I think like that is those two games are super exciting to me.
Yeah.
Those two Giants games.
Yeah, I like the narrative versus the Brady versus Giants. So I'm excited for
Yeah.
that week 11 matchup. But I think I do have to agree with you. Probably the most exciting games of the season that I see on this Monday evening football schedule is the Bills versus the Titans.
Yeah, I think so
I
too.
think it I think it's spot on. But the nice thing is next week we actually get to preview the Giants versus the
Oh,
Chiefs.
I can't
So a
wait.
nice little
I
segue
can't
right
wait.
there. So that will be a great one to tune into. We'll be able to talk, really chop up the Daniel Jones situation and the New York Football Giants
Oh yeah, love it.
and the Kansas City Chiefs and the things that they're recreating there and trying to put together the dynasty that Andy Reid has been probably for the last 10 years in his
No
football
doubt.
career. But I think they're pretty darn close to be doing that. But I believe that's all we got tonight.
Oh yeah.
Unless Nick, you have a little extra something you want to put in there.
No, I think
No,
that's gonna be a
all
good
right.
one, man. I'm excited for next weekend to stay. I hope you guys tune in because that one I am excited about. I'm excited to talk passionately about the Giants. Not a huge Giants fan, but I don't know. I feel
He
like
sees some potential
I'm
there.
on them early. I feel like and I just
Hey,
you know
it's
I
important.
I'm I'm willing to be bold in that.
There you go. Hey, that's
Good.
what I like to hear. Awesome. Hey guys, well, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We appreciate it. It's the best way to help the channel. Also, share this with like 10 of your closest friends. That's another great way to help the channel. Or, family members if you don't have friends. So tomorrow we'll be back. We'll be doing our Monday Evening Football Daily Show.
Oh
We'll
yeah.
see your beautiful faces on the keyboards. And we'll see you next week after that.